CFZ Newsflash. This isn't something we do very often. In fact, I think it's only the third in 5 or 6 years. However, this video, which you're just about to see, was going to be the On the Track Extra on Wednesday week. However, as you will see at the end, new information has come to light which I believe makes it potentially very important indeed. So please forgive me for having interrupted your Friday afternoon with a piece of unexpected news, but I hope you enjoy it. It's January the 9th, and I have just received 2 rather interesting things in my email inbox. They're both stories which refer to the capture of 2 European lynx in Scotland. Now, this is something which I think is particularly interesting, because when Felicity the puma was caught in Scotland in 1980, although it was soon discovered that all the signs pointed towards her being an escapee, either deliberately or by accident from captivity, the stories all referred to how well she had adapted to life in the wild. Now, here we have a story of 2 lynx caught in the Highlands of Scotland. There is a charity called Lynx UK that are campaigning to reintroduce lynx into various parts of Scotland and northern England, including Kielder Forest and Northumberland, which incidentally is the home for a series of sightings of a BHM-type apparition, which has got nothing to do with the lynx story, but it is an interesting coincidence, and as we all know, according to my old friend and mentor Tony Shields, there ain't no such fucking thing as a coincidence. So, let's have a look at this story in a bit more depth. 2 lynx. Now, this is a story which is in the Scottish Herald newspaper, dated today, the 9th of January. 2 lynx that were illegally released in the Highlands have been captured by wildlife authorities. The big cats were spotted on Wednesday night, and wildlife conservation charities worked alongside Police Scotland to safely track the cats and take them back into captivity. On Wednesday evening, the Cairngorms National Park Authority had announced that the animals were at large within its grounds. It was working to establish what happened, but assured the police the cats were low risk because of their shy nature. It has now been confirmed that the cats have been safely captured and are currently in the park's quarantine facilities while investigations into how they were released into the park continue. The Highland Wildlife Park posted on X to say, "We have successfully captured the 2 lynx that were illegally released into the Highlands." There you have 6 very small paragraphs in which it says 3 times that the lynx were illegally released. Now, do they have intel as to who and how and where these creatures were released? Because I find it very interesting, the contrast between this story and what happened when Felicity the puma was discovered, in that at no time during the recapture of Felicity the puma by farmer Ted Noble in Scotland in 1980 did the media stressed so often that she was an escapee. Here we have two animals which are quite capable of living wild in the Scottish Highlands, and furthermore animals which once did live in the wild in the Scottish Highlands, and the emphasis in the story is completely about how they were released and how they were illegally released. And I wonder, because I don't trust spin, I'm a cynical old sod as well as an anarchist, and having lived through the last few decades of British spin doctor infused politics, it makes one, at least makes me, more and more cynical about spin. And usually when people are lacing a story with spin to this extent, they're trying to hide something. Now, what could they possibly be hiding? Lynx are currently regarded as being extinct in the United Kingdom, although the date of their extinction is not known with certainty. The youngest physical remains of lynx are from Kinsey Cave in Craven, have been carbon dated between 150 AD and 600 AD. A literary reference to what are most likely to be lynx in Cumbria, dated to between the 7th and 10th century, occurs in the Welsh poem Dynogad Smock, and I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, suggesting they may not have been extirpated from Britain until well into the Middle Ages. And there have been written records of lynx in Scotland until the mid-18th century. And of course there was the famous record by the Romans claiming that in northern Scotland lions we have, but without the great manes of those from Nubia. Nubia, by the way, being North Africa, which does suggest that there may well have been lynx or some other indigenous large wildcat living in Scotland in Roman times, and quite possibly for maybe another 1,000 years or so afterwards. And now I'd like to look, if I may, at the story which appeared in the Scottish Daily Record this morning, which was sent to me by our old friend Bob Skinner. Thank you for this, Bob. And the story starts off that under the headline that two lynx illegally released in Highland captured after huge search. Now, there are a number of links in these stories, pun not really intended, but mildly amusing. The first one goes under the word released in the first sentence. Two lynx that were illegally released into the Highlands have been traced after a joint operation between police and the Highland Wildlife Park, and the link goes to a story saying trailer carrying a number of animals overturns on the M74 as two casualties reported. Well, first of all, this story seems to have nothing at all to do with the story of the two lynx caught in the Highlands of Scotland, because, as you can see from this map, the M74 motorway is in a specific part of the Scottish lowlands below Glasgow and Edinburgh, and does not go anywhere near the Highlands. And although lynx can presumably travel quite a distance in a day, because this accident only happened yesterday, the idea that they would be traumatized enough from an accident to then run hundreds of miles further north is frankly ridiculous. Then come two photographs of lynx, presumably these two lynx in question, which were apparently or appear to have been taken by camera traps. The second of these pictures has a completely meaningless caption of "they traced humanely overnight." I have no idea what this means. I'm not trying to be awkward here, but it doesn't make any sense at all as far as I'm concerned. And then we have another series of links. Interestingly enough, the first one and the second one for some reason go to a story about dogs worrying sheep in Balfour, and the third one for some reason goes back to the original story about the lorry crash on the M74. And then for no discernible reason we have a picture of a caracal, which is an African and Asian creature that most certainly would not survive in the Highlands of Scotland. And why it has been put in here, apart from the fact that it's occasionally known as the African lynx, and somebody or something couldn't be bothered to do their picture research properly, I have absolutely no idea. So what the bloody hell is all that about? The police, while the animals were still at large, issued a statement saying that they had to be recaptured because they would not survive in northern Scottish weather, which is completely untrue, because as we've seen they lived there until well into historic times. And contradictory statements were issued, one saying that the animals were dangerous and the other saying they were completely harmless because they were so shy. At the moment, the people who are lobbying for the reintroduction of lynx into the Scottish Highlands and other parts of the northern side of the British Isles have been remarkably quiet about it. I don't for one moment suspect them of having illegally released two lynxes. But if it wasn't them, who was it? Well, first of all, the Highland Wildlife Park, which is where these animals will probably end up finally after their period of quarantine for biosecurity at Edinburgh Zoo, already has two lynx, and there are no records of them having any others, and their biosecurity record is a particularly good one, so I think it's highly unlikely that the animals escaped from there. Are there any lynx in private collections in the north of Scotland? Well, there might well be, but we have no records of this, and as I am doing this on the fly, because the story has just come in and I find it so interesting, I haven't had time to get anybody to check out the Wildlife and Countryside Act records, or the Dangerous Wild Animals Act records, or the Zoo Regulation Act records. But if they're not escapees from captivity, and they are not ones that have been deliberately released as part of an unofficial reintroduction program, and we've looked at the work of so-called introductionists here on many occasions over the last few years, what else could they be? Well, the most disturbing and nastiest explanation is that they are tame animals which were released so they could be shot by hunters who have paid a large amount of money for the privilege of killing to tame animals in what is known, a practice that is known as canned hunting. This undoubtedly goes on, and this is not only a criminal offence, it's also a moral offence. The police reports have all suggested that these animals were released deliberately, and it does appear, even though this might just be me being paranoid, it does appear that they believe that they have some sort of idea of who it was who released them in the first place. I don't know. If anybody watching this show can shed any more light on the subject, please contact me. You can get me through the comments below or by emailing me at cfzjohn@gmail.com. And all I can say is, watch this space. Yes, this is all very interesting, you can say, but there is more. This morning, newspapers in Scotland reported that 2 more lynx have been seen in the same area. Now this means one of 3 things. Either there is an unofficial reintroduction program going on. 2, there is very lax biosecurity at a private collection of lynx. We have submitted, or rather Guinevere has submitted, a Freedom of Information Act request to find out what lynx are registered to private keepers in that part of Scotland. Because if you think of it, illegally kept lynx in the numbers which appear to be there, because if this is true, there are at least 4 that have been kept illegally, are going to be quite a logistical problem to deal with. Or 3, and this is potentially the most exciting, that there have been indigenous lynx in Scotland all along. Bernard Heuvelmans and H.G. Howell both believed that there were indigenous lynx living on Exmoor. A lynx was shot in 1904 in Newton Abbot in South Devon. We know that there is evidence which suggests that these things might be more likely to have survived than most mainstream scientists will accept. Is this the proof that we've all been waiting for? I'm afraid you're all going to have to watch this space, and I'll be seeing you.